Hi, this is Gina Moore from the FATT Show, where it's football all the time. I am here at Cafe Delirium in Gresham, Oregon, and I am here with a very, very special guest, Coach Don Pellum, former linebackers coach for the University of Oregon. Coach, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. You look pretty sharp.
Well, hey, I'm trying to represent.
It's kind of what you're known for, is the whole dress thing.
Trying to do
I like it.
Profile. And just so you know, as long as you keep the show fat, I'll be back.
Okay, we will do that.
Yes, indeed.
So I want to just talk a little bit about history. We're going to get to what you're doing now a little bit later. But right now, I want to talk about a little bit of your history. You actually played football at the University of Oregon from 1980 to 1984.
Yes.
So you played under Coach Rich Brooks. Then you came back as a graduate assistant. And then you spent some time at a couple other universities. And really in 1993 until 2016, you were the linebackers coach. A couple years as the defensive coordinator. I think you spent some time with safeties and things like that in there.
Line, yes.
So kind of taking it back to where it all started. Let's talk about your playing days at Oregon. Like, first of all, what made you choose Oregon to begin with?
That's a great question. I grew up in Southern California, out by Palm Springs, and it's just hot. And I came to Oregon on a recruiting trip, and it was 55, mist and rain, and it felt kind of cool. And then people kept trying to talk to me. And I'm in 7-Eleven, and the guy's behind me going, "How you doing?" And I'm like, "Who are you talking to?" Because I didn't know him. And I remember calling my mom that night, pre-cell phones. So that night I was in the hotel dialing it up. And I said, "Mom, these people out here are weird." She goes, "What do you mean, son?" I said, "They keep trying to talk to me, like saying hi and stuff." And she's like, "Well, baby, that's how the world is. The world is nice. You just grew up in California where people are not nice." Like, okay. But I left here and felt really good. I felt really good. You know, Coach Brooks and Coach Whitmark, I just felt good. And so I decided to come here. And in fact, I need to thank my position coach, because I've said his name, but I don't know if he ever hears me say this. So Dave Walker, wherever you are, if anyone knows Dave Walker, tell him I said thank you, because he did a tremendous job with us young men.
So explain to me, what was it like playing at Oregon, a D1 school, from a small town in California to coming to Eugene, Oregon, playing for the University of Oregon?
It was awesome. I mean, it was awesome. You know, growing up on the West Coast, you're Pac-8, then Pac-20, then Pac-10 fan. And so we watched ABC and Keith Jackson all the time. And to all of a sudden be here on the sideline, waving the towel, very low, because Coach Brooks did not play that. Coach Brooks wasn't playing that. But to all of a sudden look out there, and we're playing USC and Ronnie Lott, and Joey Brown, and Dennis Smith. I mean, it was just we're playing these dudes. I've been watching these guys as a kid growing up, and now we're playing them. Marcus Allen, we smashed him. It's 4th and 1. We smashed him. Boom. And then they won, what? It was a 7-7 tie. I think it was 7-7 tie. We got cheated, but that's in those days. Oregon was nobody, so they could do that to us. But then, then here comes Freeman McNeil and Ken Easley, and then it's Ken Margin, and no way. It was awesome. It was unreal, and then all of a sudden be on the field competing against all them dudes. It was awesome. It was a lot different back then. We weren't. People scheduled us because we weren't very good. I would remember the Pac, but it was different. They looked at us differently. We weren't there, but we fought. It was good. I loved it. It was a huge experience. Some of the best relationships. But I'm still in contact with all those guys. So it was awesome.
That's awesome. So I have a little something here from one of your former teammates, and he says, DP was a hard worker, very strong in the weight room, an All-American Strength Club member. He was a fast, athletic outside linebacker and excellent special teams player. We also won 3 U of O intramural basketball championships as part of his M-Train team he organized. He was a good hooper as well. And that was from the quarterback at the time, Chris Miller.
C. Mills. We used to call him C. Mills. And we said, and here's it was Wendell Casey, Me, Wendell Case, and I think Jeff Williams, maybe. But we call him C. Mills. He thought we were abbreviating his name. He thought we were saying C. Mills instead of Miller. We were going, no, you're going to see millions, because he was so good. Like, no, not millions. He was awesome. He one of the best basketball players I've ever seen. We had a good basketball team. Muncie was a basketball coach. Greg Trapp, Anthony Taylor, Chris Harper, Keith Reynolds. They had a couple other guys. And they were player away. And Chris was good enough to play. Literally, we tried to talk him into it. All of us did. He wouldn't do it.
He wouldn't do it.
He would not do it.
And what about you? So, you had a intramural basketball team. Did you ever think about joining Oregon's basketball team?
No, I was a good organizer, and I recognized talent. I was a recruiter back then, and so I recruited guys, and I knew I was not that good at basketball. And when I received a scholarship in my town, people thought I was going to play basketball because I was all league and all in CIF, all that stuff, and I'm like, I'm playing football. There's more scholarships.
Right.
It's logical. And so, no, I'm not a basketball player.
So, over your 23 years coaching at the collegiate level, what do you think has changed the most from back then to now?
Well, several things. I would say the first is that the arms race. Everybody has facilities. Back then, the big programs had facilities. The rest of us didn't. Now everyone has facilities. You go top to bottom. Washington State has a nice one. Oregon State has a nice one. Stanford has a nice one. Oregon's off the chains. Washington's off. And it's everywhere. So I say the facility difference. I think the other thing is just the overall knowledge, in particular on the offensive side of the ball. Because when we played, offensive teams had a personality. Washington State was the spread team. Okay, SC was the IBAC team. Everyone was specific. We were a veer team. Now every offense does everything. So you'll see power I in the game. You'll see veer in the game. You'll see rope option in the game. You'll see spread, throw it all over the place, empty formations and shifts. And so it's an offensive game. It's a lot more difficult for defenses unless you have like the perfect talent to run your system.
So you coached under 4 different head coaches. So Rich Brooks, Mike Bellotti, Chip Kelly, and Mark Helfrich. And then the other 2 at the other colleges.
Yeah, Bruce Snyder at Cal and Keith Gilbertson at Cal.
So what was the biggest difference in them?
It's neat because they're all awesome people. All really good men, like guys you want to be around. Bruce Snyder was so thorough and meticulous and very well spoken, very soft, but he had an impact, and he could be. I told him this. I said, Bruce, you should be like the CEO at Xerox, IBM. That's when those companies were big. And then Keith Gilbertson, he came out of the Washington program with Don James. He was a football junkie. He's a football dude. He was very intense that way, but awesome. Rich Brooks, hard, freaking tough, but as loyal as they come. So if you ask me a question about Rich Brooks right now, how would Coach Brooks decide on this issue? I could tell you with 99.9% efficiency, because Brooks is Brooks, and you love people like that because you know what you're dealing with there. I think Coach Bellotti was the perfect person to follow him because Coach Bellotti did an unbelievable job of challenging everyone in a different way. And just the way he handled coaches and players, it was different. It wasn't yelling, it wasn't fake, but you know what? It was really effective. And Coach Bellotti did an awesome job of leaving the cupboards full for Chip. Because Chip came and inherited an unbelievable team. And I know everyone loves Chip. I love Chip. He's a good friend. But we had some dudes. we had some dudes. And I think Chip did a fantastic job with of innovation and vision. Did a tremendous job there. And then I think Coach Helfrich, wow, I love Coach Helfrich. Coach Helfrich did a great job of empowering people to do their jobs. And you know your job. This is your job. You got the power. Do your job. He was awesome that way. And it's unfortunate the things, we ran into the perfect storm and things unraveled. And it's always hard when you're in charge, because when you win, you get too much credit. You lose, you take all the blame, and it's not that way. He empowered a lot of people, and they were in that meltdown, that bad year. It's only a bad year. It's not a meltdown. He took all the blame, but all of us own some of that.
Right. So this is a tough question, but in your 23 years at Oregon, who was the most inspirational player?
The most inspirational player in my career is every single player that I had a chance to work with, because I get so much inspiration from them. I mean, just in my room, some of the guys I work with, the Michael Colliers, some of the walk-on kids like a Michael Collier, who came, walked on, told him what he needed to do, freaking done it to a T. All of a sudden, he's playing down as a big time attorney. Left Portland, now he's in Seattle. Or a guy like Wes Mallett, came to Oregon. He called, said, "My name is Wes Mallett." And we thought it was a joke. There's nobody named Wes Mallett. I live in San Antonio. Sure, you can walk. He shows up. Tremendous talent. Didn't know a lot about defensive football. Worked his tail off. Look up in 2 years, he's second in the conference in tackles. Goes on to have an 8 or 9 year career in the NFL, and now he's a successful businessman. But so many. He goes on and on. I mean, Kevin Mitchell, 5'10", and people going, he's too little to play. He proved that dynamite, it comes to small packages, because he blew him up. Over 100 tackles, 3 years in a row. I think he finished with 350-something tackles. Wow. But all those guys, and everyone that I worked with taught me something. They inspired me to work hard. They all gave me something.
Well, and, I think you were pretty inspirational as well as a coach to a lot of these players. So I have a little something here from one of your former players. It says, "I was fortunate enough to have been coached by Coach Pellum during my 3 years at U of O. Aside from helping me to become a better football player, Coach DP also helped me to grow as a man, as a student, and in my spiritual life. For that, I am forever grateful. It was truly a blessing to learn from Coach DP, and there's no one I would have rather played for during my collegiate career." And that was from Johnny Reagan III, who just graduated last year. I think you had quite the impact on a lot of people. So what was your favorite memory coaching at Oregon?
Coaching at Oregon, favorite memory. That's gonna. How much time do we have? There's so many. When we went to Michigan, and once again growing up and watching Michigan on TV and actually being in the big house and having it quiet, to go from there to Tennessee, that one of the other big houses, and to be down a couple scores and the lightning storm, and all of a sudden we come out and go to work, and the fans are leaving. Those are great experiences. Obviously, watching our kids at the Rose Bowl, on the stage, watching our kids, the Pac-12 championship games, but our kids having fun they were having on stage that was special. And I'll also say the Florida State game was really special. We're playing a team that was on a 20, maybe 24, 25 game win streak. They hadn't lost. They had the reigning Heisman Trophy candidate. They had all that talent down there. And for us to be game planning and going, you know what? The biggest difference in this team from last year is they turned the ball over a lot. I mean, that was the one thing, that's all I could find. And telling our kids that, and our kids, man, I tell you, it was awesome. We're on the sideline, and we're in that game. We had a couple early stops. They took off, and they were near the end zone, and all quarterbacks get greedy. So they're running the option. We know it, and Tony just sits there and tackles Jameis. They don't get it. Two of those plays, and they're on the sideline going, gosh, y'all got to take the ball away. And Derek Malone came behind the running back. I don't know if you've ever seen that play. He sticks his arm and just drops and just yanks it out. And then on the sideline, that's all this time. We're going to get the ball. And all of a sudden, it's 5 takeaways. And we gave the ball to the reigning Heisman guy at that time, to our guy, and he lit him up. And so to beat Florida State by 39 points. Yeah. And I could have retired then.
Right. That's a great memory.
Great memory. Great memory.
So I have another memory here from one of your former players. during my time at U of O as a
Do I
linebacker
have any
group.
timeouts left? Because you're doing kind of deep over here. I'm going to say that timeout for later. See who this is.
Okay. During my time at U of O as a linebacker group, we really enjoyed his barbecues. Every spring and summer, he'd put on a barbecue just for the linebackers, and it was one of the few times we didn't look at him as a coach, but as someone that wanted to give us the feeling of being at home away from our homes. And that was from Spencer Pasinger.
Pace.
Yeah.
Another, that's another great story. You think about Pace. Pace was a wide receiver, free safety. Didn't get recruited by anybody really. Small schools, Oregon and Colorado. And the best story I can tell about Pace is he has some awesome uncles, but Vonzi, his Uncle Vonzi. 2 years after Pace was in the league, I was down back at that high school recruiting, and he said, man, I got to tell you something. He said, Coach Pellum, when you guys gave him a scholarship, I never thought he would ever be able to play linebacker. We couldn't get him to hit people at freaking safety. He goes, and now he's in the league, his third year in the league, playing linebacker. I said, yes, miracles happen every day, bro. It's got to believe.
You just see the talent when others may not.
Oh, that's...
So, talking about the season and how you were transitioned from linebacker coach to the defensive coordinator. What was that like? What were the challenges in that, did you find?
The biggest challenges in any organization is when someone's promoted, and particularly from within, because it's different. It's a little different when you come from outside as opposed to inside.
Right.
But when someone's elevated, the biggest challenge is going to be getting your immediate supervisor or your coaches to disseminate what you want. And that was the biggest challenge. The players were awesome. The players were, those dudes were fantastic.
Right.
I had a lot of relationship with a lot of them anyway because I was involved in recruitment of a lot of those young men. But that was the biggest thing, getting the staff 100% dialed in and making sure that we were, what we said in the meetings, everyone was going into their meeting saying and then taking that to the field.
Right. And did you find it hard to be, I know some coaches like to be up in the booth and some like to be on the field. What was your preference? And did you find that to be a challenge?
For me, the way I looked at and different people do it different ways, but the first thing you want to do is look at the strengths and weaknesses of your staff. For instance, we had a new staff, okay? Guys that have been here, but it's a new configuration of guys.
Right.
Okay. A couple guys had always been in the box. Okay. I was in the box for years until maybe the last 10 or so. But early in my career, I was always in the box. The advantage of the box, there's some clear advantages in the box. I'll tell you right now, when you're in the box, it's quiet. You can think and you can see things. You can see and anticipate things. So the box gives you, if you're coordinating from the box, it gives you a chance to actually see what's happening. So as opposed to being on the field and someone in the box and, hey, coach, the corner, the DBs are out of position. You got to get those guys on the sideline and make sure when they play in that deep third that they're in the middle of the third because they keep drifting. You see it yourself.
Right.
You see it yourself. So it saves in communication that way. But at the same time, sometimes you need to be on the field to look guys in the face, to communicate with them, to get guys through stuff. And so I think a lot of how that's set up has to be based on, as a coordinator, what is your strength? Right. Okay. I was in the box for a couple games. My strength was going to be on the field with the players. Now, there's still going to be a chain of command. For instance, when I was on the sideline, when I was calling plays, I had to stand away from everybody, almost to get that box feel, because you need to think. And if people are around you, it's hard to think. So I would step to the side so I could think. Okay, I didn't signal myself. I had another guy signal, so I would say what I want to signal. I would just say, and the three signal guys would do it. If you're in the box, it's the same process. You say it up there, and the guys on the sideline signal it. But I wanted to be on the ground, on the sideline, to deal with people, deal with the young men myself. But I had to step to the side to get clarity. Because if you stand in the middle and call plays and all these guys are talking and the noise and they're touching you and all this stuff, it gets kind of hard. it gets kind of hard. So that was the way I approached it. And so other guys do it a different way. But that worked best for me. When I went up in the box for a couple games, I felt I needed to be back down to communicate. I could see things.
Right.
I could see. I mean, there was one play against Utah, and before their quarterback started into his routine, I could see we're going to give a touchdown. They don't see that guy. No one sees him. You can see one of the linebackers pointing to this eligible receiver, but he was supposed to blitz. So he goes ahead and blitzes. He points, but no one sees it. I'm sitting there going, if I stay up here and see that, I have a heart attack. Get me on the ground. Y'all tell me about it. I need to see something different. Man. So I was better off.
So you're better off.
I was better on the field.
So what did you like most about being the defensive coordinator?
The opportunity to work with the opportunity to work with the entire defense.
Right.
You know, every coach is like a teacher. You've got your class, and you work with your class, and you bring your class together, and all of a sudden, it's a unit. And we've had a lot of success out of our room. A lot of discipline. We had kind of a certain culture in there, and so the opportunity to spread that culture throughout the entire defense was really exciting.
So then, after a couple of years, you got repositioned back to the linebackers coach. Tell me a little bit about that.
It was a very easy transition. I mean, very easy. I went in to talk to Mark. That part was easy. Going back to my unit was easy because I went back there understanding more of what the other coaches were doing.
Right.
What the other coaches were telling their players, how they were telling their players. You know, there's so much communication involved.
Right.
And you sit in the room and, we're in there, we're meeting 6, 7, 8 hours a day.
Wow.
And you think that everyone will be on the same page, but you find out you're still not. Because this communication itself is just so difficult.
Yeah.
And so to go back and really know, okay, when we call this defense, I know quarters are supposed to be played like this, but the DBs are playing like this, guys. So there's not going to be a guy that, oh, okay, coach. So it really allowed me to know what everyone's doing and bring that back to my group. Plus my group was like, Coach, man, we need you back in here anyway. So it was good.
So let's talk a little bit about recruiting. Like when you would go out on recruiting trips to recruit linebackers, what did you look for in a potential recruit?
The number one ingredient I looked for was someone that was a tough young man that was hardworking, a guy that's willing to outwork someone. Because I think that's one of the main reasons I've had a lot of success. So the linebacker room has had a lot of success with guys that have graduated and gone on. Because we're built on outworking people. And it's basically, we talk about co-nation, but if you can't kill me, you can't stop me. And if it comes down to me, I always tell those guys, if it comes down to you and another person, you'll outwork them every time because that's what we're built on. And so that was the first criteria. And obviously, I want to, you go into the other things, the good person, the guy that knows how to turn it on and how to turn it off, not the guy that leaves it on and now he's reckless on the field and reckless in other areas of society, but the guy that can turn it on, turn it off. And then some guys that really care. And I believe if you get that person, you've got a winner.
So let's talk about the 2 national championship games. 2010 got to Auburn, and then 2014 they got to Ohio State.
Yes, indeed.
So tell me a little bit about those. What was the game plan for each game? Just kind of walk me through that.
I'll tell you what, the good news is that we were there because it was only 2.
Right.
It was down to 2. With Auburn, Cam Newton, they had a ton of success. It was really interesting. We're getting ready to play Auburn. And all of a sudden in the mail, a scouting report shows up of Auburn, supposedly from Alabama. I don't know. And it's this big, full of, it's got so much stuff. We weren't sure if it was real or a joke. You know what I'm saying? We're like, I don't know. So we after we game planned, and then there was a break before we went to the game, we all kind of, we better read through this, right? And I think it was real. I think it was real. But going into that game, we knew that, they had a lot of weapons, had to stop the run, and then we needed to get after Cameron somehow, some way. Yeah. He was so athletic. People hadn't got to him, but if you let him move around, he makes things happen. So, we went into that game, and early on, we lit him up. Kenny Rowe came in off the backside, so he's looking this way and lit him up. I mean, wow. And on the sideline, we jumping around. We're on the sideline, and Kenny's like, Coach. Oh, no, Casey's like, Coach, never seen nobody eyes that wide. So we did a good job. I think Coach Aliotti had a real good plan. And the thing about that team, Auburn wasn't a dominant offensive front. They were doing it with misdirection. They spread you out. There comes a motion. It was a totally different approach, and they were outmanning people. All of a sudden, they outnumber people. There's an extra guy in motion. They got extra block on the perimeter. They were doing some schemes. We played hard. I think we had the momentum. I think we were just about to grow with it. And then we right down the stretch. It's a 3-point game, I think, 2-point game. And that one play where we didn't tackle them, and you can never say we should have won. I don't believe in that. There's no moral victories, and no one gets a pass. We make that tackle, it may be a different game. Yeah. But we didn't, and with 20 seconds or something on the clock, they won the game. That was even, I think, relatively evenly matched. I think our defense, we were. I think it was pretty evenly matched. Yeah. I don't even remember, offensively how we done. I don't know. The second national championship game, Ohio State. Ohio State hadn't been, they weren't one of those early names in the playoffs. They kind of came out of nowhere. Yeah. But we're getting ready to play Ohio State. It was interesting. We came so far, but we still haven't quite gotten there. Here's why. We're getting ready to play. It's the playoffs. It's 4 teams left. Great. 4 teams left. The reporter asked me, okay, so are you breaking down both teams? And I go, no, not yet. We're just going to focus on the first game, Florida State. And he goes, well, we talked to Ohio State and we've talked to Alabama, and they've already got all you guys already broke down. Well, we're doing it ourselves. Right. Those guys have a whole army. I mean, an army of people. It's like every coach has an assistant and an assistant. So, but we're getting ready to play that game, and I'm watching Wisconsin. Wisconsin played Ohio State in the Big Ten championship. Okay. And I'm watching Ezekiel Elliott, and he ran for about 250. And I'm thinking, well, Wisconsin, they're not as athletic. So if they don't force it right and he breaks through, they can't catch him. Okay. So then Ohio State plays Alabama. And he runs for 220. He ran for over 2. It was like 220, 230 on Alabama. And I'm going, this is interesting. Because I know what Alabama has. And I'm going, this is interesting. He ended up running for about 750 in the last 3 games. Wow. We're playing them, and it's a 7-point game in the third quarter. 7 point, 20 to 27. We had a couple turnovers early in the game. We weren't able to capitalize on it. And as that game went on, they were a stronger team, whereas Auburn wasn't. Right. Us and Auburn, this team was stronger, and as we couldn't generate any offense. It started to wear in. We needed to make a couple more adjustments. We could have made a couple more adjustments defensively to help us, but that was a stronger team, unfortunately, and without some points, it was difficult. And then Ezekiel got hot. Now, here's the thing that I know, and we took the heat for it, and that's fine. Okay. We did not have a great offensive day. Not a lot of, it was 3rd and 4th downs were not very good. But it's a team thing, so it doesn't matter. And we took all the heat, that's fine. But at the end of the day, the next year, I watched Ezekiel do it to everybody in the NFL. So, hey, everybody, no one's tackling that guy. Yes. At least a year ago they wasn't. So, they were a bit stronger than we were down the stretch, but we were just 27-20 in the third quarter, and could have made a few different calls. Probably. We had some drop balls. What happens if we get some points early? Because the thing about Oregon that we've been, and one of the things this new staff is trying to break through and change is we've always been unbelievable when we score points. Okay, we've never been good playing from behind. Right. Okay, and we got behind Ohio State, and they were very content with running, pass, play action, and just working the clock. Right. And that's unfortunately what we ran into.
So let's talk a little bit about Marcus Mariota.
Love Marcus.
Heisman winner. Everybody pretty much said that he wouldn't really make it in the NFL. Spread offense wouldn't work. He's not a NFL-style quarterback. Tell me your take on that. You saw him in practice every day. Like, what do you think about him being in the NFL and the success he's having?
First, I'm very proud of our accomplishments with Marcus because we led the nation in takeaways in 2014, and we gave the ball to Marcus, and he knew what to do with it. It's interesting how you hear the comments of spread offenses doesn't prepare young men to transition from college to the NFL. But you watch Marcus, and it's almost like the NFL doesn't want those types of quarterbacks because it's so not easy. In the NFL, your defensive schemes are geared toward a quarterback that will not run. And so what you do in the NFL, you've got bracket coverages, you have DBs that turn their back and linebackers turn their back to the line of scrimmage because the quarterbacks won't run. All of a sudden, when you add a quarterback that can run, it breaks down because you can't run brackets and all those undercutting coverages. You have to have someone looking for that quarterback. And I think you just watch what Marcus is doing. I mean, there was all the questions. Can he make it? Can he not make it? Will he translate? And then you just start looking at the numbers. He's outrunning DBs. Yeah. I mean, he's doing some phenomenal things. And not only Marcus, Deshaun Watson, I mean, a lot of those players are really, I'm going to say this, impacting that league. Yeah. And it's really making it difficult on D coordinators because you can't do your standard coverage. You can't do it. You can play zones. Okay, great. But no one wants to play zone, especially third downs. Why play zone? Let's double some guys. Well, the minute you start doubling guys, quarterback takes off running. The only guy with eyes back to the quarterback of the safety, well, he's 15 yards, 20 yards, 30 yards down the field. So I think Marcus is one in a long line of guys that have had those abilities and guys that are going to come up that have those abilities. So they're going to impact the NFL. The NFL is changing. And whether they want to resist it or not, doesn't matter. It's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about really preparing players for the NFL or for their future, whether it's in the NFL or not. I think you were a pretty big contributing factor for a lot of these players to have success after college. One thing I heard was that your linebackers' backpacks were always organized. They were just on point. Tell me a little bit about that philosophy and, really how that did affect former players.
One of our roles as coaches, at least the way my perception of our roles as a coach or as coaches is to be leaders. So to be mentors because we're really preparing them for life. We would talk about this and just think about it. Your life may be this long. Football's that much. The rest of that whole area right there is life. And so we needed to prepare them for life. So we being the linebackers had a very, very structured way of doing things. But the first thing we did, we took care of each other and we were accountable to each other. And so we would meet early. Let's say that everyone else's meeting, they had to be there by between 7 and 7:30. 6:50, we're there. We're ahead of everybody. And if someone wasn't there, I'll give you an example. When we first started these meetings, if someone wasn't there, I would show up. And I was never early. I always want to show up a couple minutes late, and then now and then I pop over. But I'd like to come late and see what the interaction would be. So all of a sudden, someone's not there. Well, early on, someone's not there, and they go, well, Coach, we haven't talked to him. Oh, really? So then we talk a little bit. We get our minds right. Best way I can say it. And the next time I came late, if someone there, everyone they called him. Coach, we called him. We called him. Coach, we've all called him. We've all called him. And in that process, so all of a sudden, someone doesn't have a ride. Well, someone called him. He didn't have a ride, and we got him all there. So we kind of started to take care of each other. But we would talk about that. We would talk about, one of the toughest things we always talked about was, are you done with college? College is over, okay? And you're gonna go in there for a job interview, and guess what? Someone's not gonna like you. Or here's what's gonna happen: you played athletics. You played athletics. You're a college football player. So some booster guys are gonna make a phone call and help you get an interview. Okay. The head person at that organization is going, oh yeah, I got this guy coming to interview him, but the person that interviews you doesn't like you, right? He or she went to Oregon State, or he had a girlfriend in college and some football player made her mad. So he didn't like you. And now, how you can handle it? Right. Because we talk about those things before they happen. How you can handle that? Because now it's your third job and you've got 2 kids and you can't quit. But that person above you doesn't like you. How you can handle that? So we spend a lot of time, and that's where a lot of that information I've talked about in my business comes from. Just managing. How do you handle difficult people? How do you raise difficult issues? How do you handle criticism? Real world stuff. And so we did a lot of that work, and on and on and on. We talked about Johnny Reagan. I tell you, one day you'll talk to Johnny Reagan, and he will say, "Tell Coach Pellum, I've got the one key." Okay, the one key, because we always talked about the guy with one key, and the guy with the parking spot that doesn't have a name in front of it, but no one will park there. Being that guy, right? The janitor has a bunch of keys. You have that one master key because you run the dang business. Yep. We talked about that all the time, but a big role, a big function of what we do, it has to be mentorship. And then we have a big call in. I mean, if you're a teacher, if you're an instructor, a teacher, which we are, we're gonna have to look God in the face one day, and He's gonna ask you if you're in it too much. To those of us who have a lot, much is required. And if we're in charge of teaching little ones, we have to get that right. I know I have to, so I strive to get that part right.
Okay, so let's talk about social media and the effects that that's having on recruiting and getting players noticed. Talk to me, how do you feel about that? Because it's a total different world that we live in now than when you even began recruiting.
Yeah, recruiting was easy when I began. You put a VHS in an envelope with a label, you send it to a coach, you make a copy, send it back. You could hide sleepers. There was no big recruiting service that found guys, so you could have sleepers. You could, but it was manageable. And then VHS went to disc, and then all of a sudden, when that happened, the amount and the internet and the amount of information is just freaking overwhelming. And that's just from the evaluation standpoint. Right. Okay, and now the discs are gone, but everything's on the internet. Yeah. So anybody can send you a link now. I mean, so you've gotten so much information, and the way a lot of teams have combated that is by having large recruiting offices. So you look at a place like Alabama, there's a recruiting room of interns that's probably 40 to 50 people. Wow. Everyone's got a region, and they're just going through, filtering out the good stuff, and then they refer the good stuff to a person, and then that person watches it and refers it to a position coach. I mean, so it's just that's what you do to be thorough. Yeah. Some of the programs, I don't want to say bigger. Some of the programs that appropriate lots of resources in recruiting, that's where you put them. You have to keep up. The other part of recruiting that's changed is really, it's changed the recruiting a lot. Is social media, and it's not the links to watch the film. It's the way it's changing the players and how the characters are changing. All of a sudden, Guys used to commit, and that was the word. Now it's commit, and I'm gonna flip. Now it's commit. I'm gonna flip, and I'm gonna do it on social media. Now it's I'm not gonna announce where I'm going. So and it's bad. This is what's bad. Having the platform to announce where you're going, that part's not bad. But when I wait to the signing day, when let's say it's the top 50 prospects and 25 of us are going to do it on signing day, that means that if there's 10 people waiting on us, let's say there's 5 schools waiting on you, that means that when you wait the last second, some other kid's not going to get signed.
Right.
Because that last scholarship is being held for you, and everyone's waiting to see what you're going to do. So you lock kids out. You make a little, you string other players along when you wait till the last second to do it. I don't think the announcing part and having your family event, that's the world now. But some of that or some of that, I'm not going to tell anybody where I'm going. You'll find out on Twitter.
Yeah.
Come on, once again, come on. And I think in some ways, some of that is going too far to me. I know some guys like it. There's a whole generation of young coaches that they got all the stuff. They're very proficient at it. But I just think in some ways it's going too far. When we were coaching, we did enough. And a lot of the kids, not a lot of kids, a lot of the players we were involved with, a lot of those guys weren't social media. They weren't those guys. There were guys like, hey, coach, here's the deal. Coach, you know what? I'm real busy. Perfect. Let's do this. Let's talk every Monday night. And then let's connect Thursday on this. And if there's something we talk about, let's talk.
Right.
Other than that, this is your senior year. You need to be enjoying your senior year with your buddies, trying to lead your team to championship. You can't be on the phone or on social media all the time.
Right.
You can't be.
Yeah.
And, some kids are successful at it, but a lot of guys I personally was dealing with were guys that had that in perspective. Just their perspective and my perspective were in concert.
Right. So what do you think of the coaches and their staff this year for the Ducks? What is your thought on that?
The current staff?
The current staff.
You want to ask me a question about the current staff? Awesome. I'm glad you did. You know what? I think they're doing a good job. I don't know very many of them, but I think they're doing a pretty good job. The first thing I will say, let me preface it with this, and everyone should know this, that's not a rebuilding job. You hear that term used, rebuilding, no playmakers, and that's wrong. See, when you're rebuilding, you're not 8th in the country in touchdown scored in a rebuilding situation, right? When you're rebuilding, you're not averaging 40-something points in a rebuilding situation. You're not. You don't have the all-time leading rusher on a team that's rebuilding. Those words, that doesn't go together. Okay.
Yes.
So that's not a rebuilding situation. You don't have one of the better defenses or better defensive fronts on a rebuilding team. That's not a rebuilding job. That's a reload. That's a retool. The other staff did it one way. We're going to take these 3-5 bullets and put them in the 3-4 defense. Oregon last year tried to put those bullets in a 4-3 defense. It didn't work. So it's a retooling. It's a reorganization, but that's not a rebuilding.
Right.
And all you got to do is watch that team. There's tons of talent on that team.
Yes.
Tons of talent. So
yeah.
So I'll say that's not a rebuilding job. Then the second thing is, I think those guys are doing a nice job. I think they've done a good job of checking the boxes. They're doing a good job of recruiting. They're doing a good job in trying to reach out to alumni. They're doing a good job of trying to let people come to practice. So every complaint I think that was of the old staff, this staff is taking heed to, and they're trying to do something to soften those relationships. So I think that part they're doing a good job of. I think they're doing a nice job of recruiting. I think they inherited, whereas I think the last staff went out in a perfect storm. Everything that could go wrong, the last staff went wrong. I think this staff has a perfect storm coming in. You inherit one of the best rushers, one of the best running back at Oregon history, one of the better quarterbacks. The second string running back was the MVP last year. Right, Tony James was the MVP last year. Okay, you inherit all that, but the other thing they inherited in recruiting that people don't think much about is they're no longer on probation. And I know in the state of Oregon, people never talked about probation. But if let's say there's 10 teams recruiting you, and the one coach from Oregon keeps saying, well, it's no big deal. And those other 9 coaches going, oh, man, it's a bad deal. It's a bad deal. It gets to them.
Right.
But so they're off their probation. So they got all their visits back, all their scholarships back. And then the most important piece in recruiting right now, at Oregon, we always knew if we can get the kid and the parents here, they love it. It's just a neat place.
Right.
We struggle because we can never pay to bring a parent up. Okay, and we're not in the big city, so there's no Southwest.
Right.
There's no JetBlues. There's none of those airlines in Eugene, so the prices are always high.
Right.
I was the liaison for the Pac-12 conference to the NCAA, and we worked hard for years trying to get them to let us pay for parents to come on trips. Basketball's had that for years. Football hasn't. Well, this is the first year. So not only did they hire a good team,
right,
and they're good recruiters. I would say this: they are very diligent in recruiting. That staff does a good job, and they can bring parents on campus. This is the perfect storm. You know? And it was a day that past staffs had looked to forever till we can pay for them. They have it, so I think they're doing a good job. You know, I think once again, I just know the rhetoric can't be rebuilding, no playmakers, and not hearing that,
right,
because there's too many on that team.
Yeah. It's a lot of talent on that team right now. A lot of talent on that team. So you've had a huge impact on many players that's been far-reaching, not only affecting them as young men, but their families as well. So I have something from Kenyon Varner. One thing that DP used to say that has made a huge impact on me and has stuck with me since my days at Oregon was his saying, right or wrong, our side of the street always wins. At the time, it was just about football until I matured and actually understood that it was bigger than that. This saying is about loyalty, trust, honor, family sticking together regardless of what or who may come against you. It's about true friendship, a relationship with your wife, husband, girlfriend, or boyfriend. This is something that I still use today with my family and friends. Now, Kenyon Varner was on offense. You are a defensive coach.
Yes.
I think this proves that it is far-reaching, that you impacted way more people than just people that you had direct contact with as far as your linebackers. I also have something from Rodney Hardrick. And he says, Coach Pelham has by far had the biggest impact on my life. He opened my mind up to a whole new way of thinking. He taught me lessons that I still reiterate today and instilled habits that I'll have forever. My family and I are forever thankful for Don Pellum and wish him nothing but the best. So what do you attribute that to? Like, what, going into coaching, was that your mindset? Like, this is what I want to do, is teach these young men how to become men.
Number one, God. Because to me, a lot of my heart, a lot of what I was taught as a kid, a lot about my personal makeup is trying to do what's right. Right. What's right, you know, from a biblical, what used to be biblical, now people don't talk about it that much, but from that. So I would say the first thing is God, and just trying to do the best to help people. In recruiting, I always talked about 4 things. I mean, anybody I recruited, or if I was ever in their home, it was 4 things I talked about. And I talked about the athletic life, which is easy. Basically, if I'm recruiting you right now, if you do everything you're supposed to do using the facilities and the support here, you're going to maximize your potential. So that's an easy one. Your academic life. And we always talked about trying to get guys, for years, trying to get guys to graduate in 3.5 years instead of 4. And so part of that program, which is a lot of the stuff, is part of my curriculum that I've developed, but it's in that stand portion that I talked about a while back. Is let's go down before we declare major. Let's go take an inventory test and figure out what we're good and what we like, so we don't waste classes, so we can try to graduate early. There was a lot of thoughts around that idea. So there's the athletic, the academic, and then the social part. And the social component was your $1 million company, if you can protect it. Okay, and for student athletes, that has to resonate, because when you see student athletes get in trouble, what are they in trouble for? Or what happens when you watch ESPN? It's drugs, it's alcohol, It's parties, friends, bars.
Mm-hmm.
It's always the same stuff.
Right.
And so how do you navigate that? And, you know, for example, you're my star linebacker and it's your junior year and you're going home for spring break. And you're going to see some friends. You come from one of those neighborhoods. You're going to see some friends that you haven't hung out with for a while. And they're going to be like, hey, hop in. Let's go do this. Do you hop in?
Mm-hmm.
How do you handle that?
Right.
What's in their car? It's just so how do you protect yourself? So that's what we talked about in the social area. And then the fourth one was you got to get your religious life right. You got to get your faith right. And I never told anyone what denomination, but you have to figure it out because there's some tough days coming.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to all face, there's some dark clouds that are going to come.
Yeah.
And we have to have our faith right. So it's not the end of the world. It's just a little rain and we can keep moving. So those are the things that I talked about. That's what I talk to all these kids about, how we can expand on those 4 things in their life.
Well, Kenny Wheaton says this.
Kenny Wheaton. Do I have another timeout? I'm out of timeouts. You got all the dudes. Wow.
So
this is awesome, by the way. I'm just going to tell you.
Good. Because I want you to be honored in this because I think it shows of your character. So, and I think that's amazing. It's a great legacy. So Kenny Wheaton says, he was like that favorite uncle you had back home. He was young and hip enough to relate to me and to the rest of the team. I always felt like he was more than a coach. He was one that you can talk to if you needed to. His everyday actions showed you he cared for you, the person, and not just a football player. So he provided a little bit of a memory. He calls me Killa, and he knew how to get me to do whatever he needed me to do by a look and the tone in which he would say Killa. He's a great coach, but an even better man.
Oh gosh, that is such an awesome compliment. That first part, awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
are you trying to make me cry?
Am I succeeding?
Because right now you didn't like the wrong buttons, all the right buttons.
Okay, so let's stop talking about football.
Okay.
Stop talking about coaching. Let's talk about Don Pellum, the person. Mm-hmm. Who are you, really? Like, what do you want people to know about you? What are your hobbies? What are your interests? What do you like outside of football?
Don Pellum is from a small town, Southern California. Had 2 parents that never went to college. But they instilled in us show up and take every advantage of every opportunity. My dad would always say, you know, you have a better chance to succeed, to do more than we did. And I took it to heart. And so I was a paper boy. I was a cook. I was a dishwasher that worked my way to a cook in a restaurant. And I worked the paint crew. I had a 3.2 GPA and I played 3 sports.
Wow.
Yeah, and I had a low rider. I came to Oregon because it felt right. And a lot of what I believe in is just doing the right thing. I'm a very much a people person, and I'm a help people person. Yeah. So I'm always trying to help lift people. That's what I've been about. Hobbies for me right now, I love to cook. Like I said, I've got 3 grills. I've got a smoker. I have a grill, a gas grill that I can put 50 steaks on it. I mean, I can roll with it, so I can marinate. I can, and so a typical example would be the players are coming over. I can put them in the smoker. I can smoke them steaks, get a good smoke on them, and then go right from the smoker and put them on the grill and just start burning. And then I have a Weber. So I love that. I love fishing. I golf a little bit. But really, and I like to work out. Yeah. But that's me. And then the thing that I like to do is I'm about people. So, right now I'm involved in some charities. Once again, I'm putting together a company so I can get out and try to help people. Yeah. And that's what I'm all about. Yeah. Do that, do some devotionals, keep my faith strong, share my faith, and then I want to share every bit of knowledge that I have.
That's great.
We give back. Right.
Just a great philosophy.
Yeah, give back.
So,
you know what I'm also involved in?
What?
Some mission trips. In fact, this last year, people ask me what I've been doing. It's kind of interesting because they're like, "What are you doing?" And they think I'm just retired. And
right.
I'm not a person that can just not do anything.
Uh-huh.
So in February, we did a missions trip to Africa, to Kenya.
Wow.
And we did, and it was pretty awesome because I took, not I took, but it was a group of 35 doctors,
Mm-hmm.
and then there was 3 football coaches.
Oh,
And so it was set up to where we went to partner with the university, and they had they had an eye clinic, they had a foot clinic. They brought over like 1,500 pair of glasses, another couple thousand of readers, then some general doctors, and then we did a micro bank. So here's what we did. In that region of Africa, women work in the tea fields, and they can be pregnant. They work till they drop.
Wow.
Okay, and then a baby. And so what we did is we went in, we raised some money, purchased some sewing machines, taught the ladies how to sew. Then we raised some money and put it in the bank. And so you take out a loan, get your business going on. You're gonna create surgical scrubs. You're gonna sell them to this university. Okay. Once you get up and running, you pay the loan back. We loan it to another woman. So it's just for women. So we did that project. There was another project where the women went into the local schools, and at the local schools they took backpacks. What happens in Africa? There's not a lot of conversations about premenstrual. Some of the women personal things, and so during that time of the month, the girls just disappear. And sometimes they won't come to school for 2 weeks or so. So we went in, they did a whole educational project, which was really awesome. Took a hand at all these backpacks. And then what was really awesome is, so that was a 2-day project. The third day, the women group was now going to some other schools, and they're hanging out, giving out some dresses. They made a bunch of dresses, and they're just going out, just loving on people. And while they were there, they saw the school superintendent for all those schools. And she was talking about the American group that was there passing out the backpacks. So we have it's like the coolest interview of the superintendent talking to the group, to our women's group, about how proud she was of the work that they were doing over there. So that was part of it. Then there was 3 coaches, and we put on, actually 3 coaches and a couple athletes. We put on strengthening, all speed conditioning. So we did all speed development camp for 2 days. So we took the kids, and the parents went in there and got, doctors and dentists. And so it was awesome. And the beginning of that, I got to tell you this, my wife and I have been sponsoring a little girl in Kenya in a place called, we thought it was called Dandora. Okay. And so we're going, well, it's near Kenya. We're going to go to the school and then join the missions team. Well, the closer you got, the more we kept looking online and Dandora is not a city, it's a dump.
Oh, wow.
And so there's a school in the back of the dump, and the schoolmaster came and got us, and it took us 45, almost an hour through. I've been to some tough places. Recruit, you go to some tough places, slums, ghettos. I've been in Baltimore. I've been Houston, LA, everywhere. I've never seen nothing like this. We're 15 minutes into going into this stuff, and I'm sitting there going, we got to get out of here. But we went through in the very back of that to the Shining Light, Kenya, Dandora School. It's the best school in that whole district, that whole side of Kenya. And they opened up the gate, and the little kids came out and they're singing the songs. It was so cool, so cool.
Wow.
And we got a chance. That's been my wife's heart. She's big into charity. She's big into the kids. So that was great. And then we had a chance to go from there up to and meet the rest of the group.
How rewarding!
Yeah, so that was big. But that's what I've been doing. I did.
So you've been busy.
Oh, I built a deck. I built a huge deck on the side of the hill. I put concrete stairs in next to it. I did a clinic in Mexico. There's a lot of American football in Mexico. Did that. Then my wife and I went to Panama for a week, and then I went down and worked at my mom's house for a week. And then I've been in classes. I have my last class coming up in a week. So do you see yourself coaching again, or are you kind of enjoying this retirement thing? I'm not a retirement person. I could coach again with the right people.
Right.
And there's going to be some opportunities. Coaching is hard. coaching is real hard. Just the grind of coaching is hard.
Yeah.
And then if you're not with a group of guys that you just like really tight with, it can get really, really hard. And I'm not going to do that. So if I coach again, it'll be with the right group of guys, people that I know that I trust, or I won't do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to end on this.
Okay.
So I watched an interview the other day. It was an older interview where the journalist asked you a question. And he said, after your time at Oregon was over, what do you want to be known for? And your response was, you want to be known for a leader of men.
Yes.
So reading these comments from everybody that has played for you, everybody that I have talked to, I would say that is something that you have accomplished.
Amen. That's awesome. That's awesome. And I'm gonna keep trying. I'm gonna keep trying. Awesome.
So this is Gina Moore from the FATT Show, Football All the Time, here again with Coach Don Pellum. Thank you very much again, Coach.
Thank you.